Google's parent company, Alphabet, lost $100 billion in market value on Wednesday after its new artificial intelligence technology produced a factual error in its first demo. In a fateful ad that ran on Google's Twitter feed this week, the company described Bard, its new AI chatbot, as a launchpad for curiosity and a search tool to help simplify complex topics. An accompanying GIF prompts Bard with the question, "What new discoveries from the James Webb Space Telescope can I tell my 9-year-old about?" Chatbot responds with a few bullet points, including the claim the telescope took the very first pictures of exoplanets or planets outside of the solar system. But the James Webb Telescope didn't discover exoplanets. That was a discovery made by the European Southern Observatory's Very Large Telescope back in 2004, a fact that NASA confirmed in a reply to the chatbot.
So this week, Microsoft had a whole thing with ChatGPT that everyone knew that was coming, and so Google was trying to get ahead of it to announce their Bard chatbot, and they did it with that GIF, like you said, on Twitter, which ended up giving incorrect information about the James Webb Telescope. And this took a full $100 billion off of the stock of Alphabet, the announcement of this, because there's been a huge rush towards investing in AI from VCs or even retail investors. People have been pouring a lot of money into anything that's AI related, and anywhere you go right now, people are advertising the AI within whatever it is that they're doing just to get the marketing, the headlines, and all that kind of stuff. So this was kind of the first misstep in which everybody's been saying that Google's behind in AI, which, by the way, they're not. Google's been using AI for a long time, and Google Search is a very good example of that, the search crawlers that they're using and a lot of the stuff that they do. They jumped onto this thing where the public is basically seeing this as Google trying to catch up or keep up with Microsoft, and in doing so, they made a faux pas that is something that every researcher has been talking about within machine learning and artificial intelligence, that it's not necessarily giving you good information. It only gives you information that's as good as what's put in, and when you put in the billions of data points that these text generators have, you're going to get a lot of garbage. The majority of the internet, there's only like 1 to 10% of the internet is about that much is actually usable. The rest of it's garbage. It's rewritten. It's a bunch of gray area things, just the Wild West. This was the first big thing where investors were kind of scared and said, we need to sell off Google because it may fall behind to Microsoft, which is funny in a way because Google still has 90% of the search market share, whereas Microsoft has 3% with Bing. And on top of that, $100 billion, that's a lot of money to any of us. $100 is a lot of money to any of us right now, or either of us. But $100 billion to Google, they're the number 4 biggest market cap still of any company in the stock market. The only companies above them are Apple, Microsoft, and Saudi Aramco. So after this, they still have a $1.212 trillion market cap right now. So losing $100 billion was, what, 7%, I believe, 7 to 8% of what their full market cap was. So it's not a huge thing. That people have definitely lost more money in the stock market. And Bitcoin and any crypto has probably moved more than 6% on any given day this year. It's not necessarily a huge thing, but at the same time, it's interesting to watch how the general public and how even institutional investors are losing faith in Google right now, which is a first for them. They've been the top for so long. I mean, it's for 20 years now, 23 years, 24, 25, somewhere in that range. I believe it was the late 90s when they first started dominating search. Yeah, they've never let go. This is the first time that there's really been any kind of legitimate pressure that people feel like Google might be losing it.
So notably, I'm getting some reports here. Vinny Mora and Dennis Linkoff both talked about how Bing made errors this week as well, but did not get nearly as much flack. One could argue maybe that the fact that the errors weren't as high profile or weren't as significant, but in the case of Bing, they they looked at a financial report and they talked about how Gap's operating margin was 5.9% when it was actually 4.6. So that difference, while not huge, is a relevant statistical difference to make an error on. Furthermore, the 5.9 number doesn't actually appear in published reports or analysis anywhere. So it seems like the bot just kind of pulled it out of where. So oddly, both models have potentially I won't say the same potential, but similar potential for error. But only Google seemed to have caught the pie in the face this week anyway.
The difference in the companies that, like as you say, get the pie in the face, because ChatGPT and GPT-3 have been making errors for a long time. It's been well known. I mean, any of the AI, generative AI, even the art side, the thing about the 8-finger hands and things like that from MidJourney and Stable Diffusion and OpenAI just recently was when CNET got in trouble for when they had their AI writer, which we had talked about previously. It was because it was doing incorrect math. And so a lot of these things, not only, again, they're reading bad information, a lot of bad information on the internet as it is, and they don't have, it's artificial intelligence. It's not genuine intelligence, so they don't have the ability to think this through, have context, do their research. I was going to say it's just like Wikipedia, but it's actually worse than Wikipedia because it's taking just all of this unedited, unchecked stuff that they wanted to, have the largest data sets. That was the big thing from GPT 1 to 2 to 3, and then NVIDIA and Microsoft had also released their own thing. Google released their Lambda. All of these text models, they kept trying to promote them with bigger and bigger data sets, just like thread counts on sheets. They just keep on adding all of these to the thread count, but it really doesn't matter. The thread count does matter a little bit, but not so much. They found in a lot of these studies, a lot of researchers have found that when you have a more refined model, it's easier to get better information basically out of it. Get a more refined model that's based off of one thing, like if you make a legal one or a medical one, that it's more likely to get the information correct within a smaller data set that's more controlled. And we've seen this on the image side too. Anybody who uses Stable Diffusion is well aware of how to train a model using Disco Diffusion. And when you're doing that, you're only using 5 to 10, I believe, images. Adding that into this gigantic set of tens of millions of images, or hundreds of millions of images, and you're getting this exact replica and style of what it is that you're trying to get. Well, not a replica, but it understands what it's doing. As time goes on, it's basically becoming clear that as all of these search engines are putting these chatbots into the internet and making it AI-enabled search, that it's still going to be those really refined things that are focused on one thing that are going to be the AIs that really succeed and give us the information that we need the way that we need it. We're a long way away from this AI being usable in an automated way. It's just like a self-driving car. It's cool for a while, but once you get it onto the wrong road and it makes a mistake, it hits a building, it drives off a cliff, things like that, drives into a police car, which is what happened with one of the autopilot Teslas. People just driving around down the freeway in Arizona is where it happened, not too far from me, on I-10, where it's just a straight road in the desert, and this guy thought that he could just put his feet up on the dash and do whatever, and the autopilot just went off course and hit a police car that was parked on the side of the road. This is the AI generative text version of those kind of mistakes, and they're going to continue happening. That's why, as a writer, most people in my business are not necessarily worried about this taking over our jobs, because we know that the research and the fact checking that we do is never going to go out of style. If anything, it's going to become more necessary as time goes on with this AI technology.
Last thing I would add is just, you mentioned general. I think when you get specified, you get more specified, more specific. That is where AI tend to have greater strength in a variety of things. Nick Bostrom is an AI from Swedish by birth, but he's teaching at and tenured educated and teaching at Oxford. And he talks about how true general AI is very difficult. Whereas specialized AI, kind of thing that learns how to solve the game of Go or play chess better than Gary Kasparov, that you can do. But when it's trying to be general and it's trying to give you answers to questions like, hey, talk to me about exoplanets and NASA, or hey, give me analysis on these different stocks or market, it's going to be a lot harder. This is Edokwin with Brian Penny for the AI Creator Economy podcast. Please like, subscribe, and hit that bell. You're going to get some good content throughout the week, every week.